Welcome to an artist's life. I live by the sea in New England, and I love to share my quiet, simple life of art and garden and home. So I hope you will feel that you can come and join me. Welcome to an artist's life. Good day everyone, and welcome to this week's vlog. As you'll recall, last week I took us to the Yarmouth Antique Centre, and I had enough footage that I thought it would be more fun to break it up into two videos. So today we are heading out on that voyage again to return to see some more lovely things at the Yarmouth Antique Centre. And we'll be getting up to some other things, of course, artwork and such. But now for the weather report, as I'm often doing here in New England, the weather is so up and down and so changeable, that this week we've had both freeze and spring. And I have to say, during the spring bit, I went a little mad and filled my watering can and went out and just pretended it was April and had a little fun. So I'm glad I took advantage of my spring. And as New England is wont to do, if it gives you a lovely day of spring in March, it then has to remind you that it's still quite winter. And as we've had a full moon, we've had very high tides and very low tides. So the other day we had a freeze during the flats. And so let's begin this week's vlog before we head out to Yarmouth Antiques with a quick shot of the icy flats. Let's get started with this week's video. Well, since I think I'll probably break this into two different videos, let's do a fun transition from our lovely fire to some other things. I really like this planter, and it's wood, but it has this really pretty galvanized liner. If it wasn't $85, I would probably consider getting it. I love the little finish on the front. I wish it was a little spigot that let water out. But isn't that a pretty planter? And some pretty decoys. And I also love sort of paint by numbers, sort of kitschy or sort of naive art. And I really like this painting of the bears sort of sparring on the log. This is a really pretty secretary for $4.25. That's pretty wood. I'm guessing it's probably maple. And I really love, see how you can take the shelves and adjust them to the height you like because of the grooves on the side. And this is a really beautiful bit of white ironstone. It is, yes, Liberty Blue. So it's Staffordshire, made in England, but it's the pattern is called Independence Hall, obviously made for an American market. And then here I would assume this is Betsy Ross making the flag, and the set is $95 for the entire set, a surface for 6, which is quite nice. It has berry bowls and cups and saucers. But see, the secretary is really pretty. It has the, I wonder if they have the lock, but the doors open nicely. And as it is a secretary, of course, you can open here. And there you have a lovely leather-lined desk and a spot to keep your ink pot and your pens and 2 places for nibs. It's quite nice. And of course, there are drawers underneath. I think this is a really beautiful I looked at a few lamps. This is a hanging light fixture. I love the copper and then the red glass. And this was a pretty Victorian piece. I wasn't super excited about the flowers, but it was still quite pretty. It'd be lovely in a kitchen. I actually prefer this one a bit more, tiny bit more Spartan, but yet still ornate, Edwardian, Victorian-esque, and wired for light. And of course, because we're in a nautical area, we have lots of ship lights, and I really love all of these. The reds and the greens. As some of you may know, it's red right return is the rules of shipping, so you always keep the red on the right side when you see the greens and the reds. But lots of pretty nautical lights wired for the home. And this isn't anything special. It probably isn't even that old, but just because we all love our blue and white, I thought this light fixture, which I'm not sure if it's showing up, it's only about, I think it was $65. And it's just simple, but I thought it was kind of pretty. It would be lovely in the kitchen with blue and white. And speaking of blue and white, we have 2 size creamers. Actually, the larger could actually be for gravy, but I think it might be a good milk jug, so I'm going to have to think about that. And the pretty... Oh, and I love a fishing creel like this. I used to be quite an angler and do some fly fishing. Now, there are so many things to see here. I'll probably do another trip another day, so I'm sorry I'm not showing all the shelves. Oh, but this adorable doll's size corner cabinet is really beautiful. At $54 isn't bad. I love how the little cabinet opens like that. These frames are really pretty. The pictures, of course, have a very French or sort of a Gainsborough English style print inside, but I just think the frames are really lovely. And I actually liked sometimes to put even my own artwork in frames like this. They're $2.50 for the pair, but it is a lot of carving. They're quite lovely. And let's just have a little walk around. Now, as I said, I will come back and probably go around again because it would take me days to slowly pan along all the shelves, but I'm trying to get a few little spots here and there of just slow pans. But don't worry, I shall come back. And some lovely hanging lanterns. That's an interesting lamp. Ooh, I like this. It's probably not even old. Oh yes, 1930s. It's a beautiful, that blue, it says cookie jar. It looks almost like a pickle jar as well. That would be pretty in a kitchen. Oh, I love these prints of the barristers with their perukes on. And they look, actually there's quite, oh, there's a pair of them. I like the cat doorstop as well. Let's see, Vanity Fair prints. I'm assuming it's $70 each, not for the pair. But I just love the barrister and the peruke. And of course the doorstop is really sweet. Oh, this is such a pretty set, this jug and cups. Is there only 3 cups? But I love this robin's egg blue and then with a bit of orange. It's only $40. That's quite nice. Oh, I love this print. It looks like an old song. I want one like Pa had yesteryear. Oh, this is lovely lusterware. Lusterware comes in many colors of metallics. I happen to love the copper, and for those who don't know, lusterware is made with, I think they add oxides, metallic oxides, and do a second firing, and they've been doing it for centuries, but these are obviously probably mid-Victorian. But out of all the different tones of silvers and golds and things, I have to think, really think the copper is my favorite. This is actually a sweet little Victorian chair, cane chair, with spindles and spool. Looks like it was painted white, but I don't necessarily mind that. I could see it in a sort of a garden room with a pretty green cushion. What a lovely painted wardrobe. It's almost Moroccan. It's quite vibrant. Let's go in through this door, under this old portiere hanging over the doorway with the tassels. It's quite nice. Oh, I like this yellowware bowl. Oh, and that darling little stool for the kitchen would be so sweet. I love this bench. So it's $5.95. This would be so nice. It's almost like a trestle style bench. It would be lovely in a mudroom or an entry hall. It's a good size. I'd have to guess it's 4.5 feet at least. Nice legs. It's really pretty. It looks quite early. It might be a Victorian reproduction, but let's have a little browse. Now again, this is the type of room where I should probably come back and just pan more slowly. And maybe we shall do. There's interesting statuary and things, and there are all kinds of books in here. I feel like a trip for books needs to be its own vlog. I could look at books for hours. Oh, now I'm not necessarily a big fan of Royal Doulton, but this set, which is Reflection is the name, it's actually not too bad. I think this is probably from like the 60s to the 80s they probably made this pattern, but it's really pretty because it's almost like that bluey gray green color that I like, that sort of color that's caught between blues and grays and green that is very much like the sea here. So for Royal Doulton, I rather like this set. Oh, and this is a fun set as well. This is, I believe it's called Rural Village or Quaint Village. I forget what the pattern is called. Let's see if it says. Friendly Village. I've often thought of this, it's just an ironstone, but this pattern, Friendly Village, I've often thought of it as being like the sort of the workable, serviceable china that I could have at Old King's, good for guests and things. I think there's some more of it out here somewhere. Oh, and of course, that's a fun lamp made out of an old fire extinguisher. Now these are, these aren't probably not even old, and they are not Fire King or Fiesta ware, and they're only $10 per cup and saucer, but I like that they come in the blue and the green. It would be fun to mix the blues and the greens and have the saucers, the blue with the green saucer and the green cup with the blue saucer, etc. And yes, so this is a Fiesta ware, so that's much more. That's $45 for 1 cup. Oh yes, I thought that I saw more of this. See, there's just tons and tons. It's an easy to come by pattern, but couldn't you just see this as a good serviceable pattern for Old Kings? Like I wouldn't mind guests using it, and I like that it has browns and reds in. Oh, and of course, here's this. This place has a few sort of dollhouse things. This one obviously is not left outside, and looks like it was set up for Christmas with a little Christmas tree, looking through the porch and seeing this stairwell, and the little tiny wreaths on the window. I think these roofs, the tiles seem to be made from paper. It's so quaint and very twee and a tiny bit kitsch in here. And I wonder if it was made actually by a child because it's almost quite simple. This is called the Gold Drawing Room. But see how the curtains are so basic. I wonder if it was some little girl's afternoon rainy day treats. Oh, I like that chopping block. And the little blue set is quite nice. It'd be nice for Una to play on. And of course I can't pass a clock, and these, I love the ones with the reverse painting, without seeing if it works. So we'll just give it a little push, and it's ticking away. If I bought every clock I liked, my house would be a cacophony of ticking clocks. It'd be like the Telltale Heart. This is a sweet little blue and white dish. I think it's trying to be Delftware, but it's not. But it's still quite pretty. It would be wonderful at Bunny Hall. I mean, it's hard to pass up things in the shape of bunnies. So let's just have a little scan around, and one day I will take us back and go slowly upon each shelf, possibly. Oh, here's another set of nautical lights. This one actually has the red and the green. 175. Wonder if they are wired. Some different dressers. I do love figures, even though sometimes the dolls can be a bit creepy. There's just something about the figure that I love. Oh, this is a very pretty set. It looks very like 30s, 20s, probably German or Czech, with all the little canisters for nutmeg and barley. And I love the wooden lid salt box. Let's look in closer. It's a bit too precious for me, but I do like the colors. Actually, if it didn't have the pink and it just had the orange and blue, I probably would like it more. And also, I'd never fit. I have much more tea than that one canister would allow me to hold. But see, aren't they adorable? Let me see. Yes, German. 125. These type of sets were really popular in sort of the 20s and the 30s. This is a sweet pair of lamps. Not really my style, but still nice to have a pair. Some old trunks. Oh, I love bird cages. Wooden ones, and I love this. This is also very sort of 20s or 30s. You'd have a little canary, and I like it when it still has the ceramic feeders and waterers. I would like to get one of these and have a sweet little stuffed canary in there, because obviously I wouldn't want to leave a real canary in there. Poor darlings. This is really pretty, this velvet, but I saw this earlier and it's a little bit out of my price range, but I love that it's a matching set of the dress and then the cape, which is lined and has a little fur collar. Maybe if I had an excuse to wear it, I could tell myself I could spend it. This is a lovely piece of tapestry fabric. That could be really pretty on the back of a sofa or something like that. This is fun. I love old appliances. This is an old radar range, which basically is the precursor to the microwave. And if I used a microwave, I would consider getting this. It's $195, and I'm sure it will last another 50 years at least. But look how wonderful. It has the original book. Now, I'm old enough to remember our first microwave was a radar range. However, I don't personally use a microwave, so it would be for decorative use only. I'm so excited. Now, this seems to be the next size up of some of you may remember my other little stove I bought at the church thrift shop. This is like the next size up, and it's really adorable. If it was under 100, which sadly it isn't, it's 125, I would consider it, and I'm going to see maybe if it goes down. And this beautiful bit of French copper for only 65, I'm going to think about that one. What a darling flow blue teapot. It is, I think it's reproduction, but still it's quite pretty, and it's only, let's see, it's only 25. That's not bad. It's quite pretty. I have to think about that. Can never have enough teapots. Oh, and here's another set. Now this is more up our alley with the blue and the white. And again, I love the salt box with a wooden lid. And it seems probably about the same time period. It seems 125 is a going rate for these. But I'm not sure I would, I don't know. It's hard to say. They're so adorable. I think they'd be nice in a pantry or a larder, actually. But isn't it pretty in blue and white? And let's look at these old animals. Again, I love this old toy, but let's have another look. I am looking for lamps, and I think this is just really interesting. It needs a better shade. And this horse, which I love anything equestrian, is obviously a newly made to look old, but it's still quite interesting. But I really like this old sort of 1930s, 1940s toy with the old wheels. And here we have a little diorama of a doll's house size Christmas morning. Very sweet. There does seem to be a nice collection of dollhouse size things here. Oh, I love this big desk. It looks like the desk of like a bank clock or something, or from a Dickens story. I would love to have something like this for the boathouse studio, but I mean, I have so many storage things already. But isn't it lovely? It's pine, probably English. I love the little brass pull rings to open the drawers. Couldn't you just picture yourself sketching and doing sums here? And look at all the sweet little drawers out open. Let's see. It says it's a paymaster's desk, but I'm pretty sure a paymaster's desk is a small portable desk that you're meant to take on horseback. I think it was like the old taxman used to use it. But look how sweet it is. It even has the little footrest, so you could stand at it. It's quite a massive piece. It's actually not bad for that price, but I hardly need that much space. But, well, from this large, beautiful, full-size pine piece to this darling little 1920s child-size kitchen set. How adorable is that? And I love that green. It's really sweet. And this funny old fisherman deity, he looks like it could be a fun seaside Father Christmas with his ropes of shells and fishing net. So let's close out this second part of our trip to the Yarmouth Antique Shop. So let's head home with some lovely Cape Cod countryside scenery and some lovely music. Well, yet another day of interesting weather this week was waking up to rain in the afternoon. But we know what rain does. It gives us the perfect excuse to stay in with a pot of tea, into our studio, and work on some drawing. So let's get to this week's artwork. Now for some drawing. As many know, I'm going to be doing a series of ladies and animals or their pets. So this week I'm working, of course, on a lady, as I usually start out, just on a couple of layers, sort of making a framework and basic shapes to kind of get the idea of how I want the character to be expressing herself. And then I have decided this particular character is going to have a cat. I'm also wondering if I may actually add some other animal as well. I'm thinking possibly to add some birds. But here you can see, as I've added a third layer where I can go in and sort of highlight the dahlias, and also this week I've been going through my dahlia bulbs, getting ready to think about planting them for the spring. So I had dahlias on the brain, so that's why I have dahlias in this particular painting. You can see here I, while roughing in on the second layer, I then put the third layer on and made the dahlias and the cat a little bit more detailed in the sketch. So that's why previously I was able to go back into layer 2, just erase the roughness of the cat and the dahlia. And then on the third layer, once I opened that back up, those were then not interrupted with the erased bits underneath. I could have just done that on a fourth layer, but sometimes I find it easier to sketch over like that and then just go ahead and erase. Now, I've saved it once before, so if I felt I made an error, I can always go back, which is the joy of being able to do things digitally. So now I'm just underpainting, and now I'm going in with some more details just to kind of bring in the highs and the lows. And you'll see that I've underpainted here that she has sort of a purple-hued hair. I'm wondering if she may still be have ginger hair as my other two characters I've made so far, but then I was actually thinking maybe to make her more brunette. And as I don't necessarily like to keep colors in the reality, I think that sort of intensifying the colors, I just like that in my style. So underpainting in purple I think is a good base to counteract the sort of ginger of the cat, because I decided to have the cat be ginger, and I didn't want her to completely disappear into the ginger hair, so I'm underpainting with a lilac or purple, and then I'll build that up. And then in the final painted piece, the oil piece, her hair will probably be a bit more brunette, and then just playing with ideas for color for the other side as well. Now, and then just a rough background. And as some of you have mentioned in my last post, that although I consider these my sketches, I then go and do a final piece, which would be in digital oil. However, with my last piece that I did where I finished it in digital oil, The Lady with the Hedgehog, some of you had mentioned that you would like it also to be purchasable in this rough state where I do chalk. So I'm going to start offering my both my finished sketch, such as this with the chalk, as well as then the finished sketch in oil. So I might as well put a few of those on the screen and let you know that I do have those available. So here you can see, for example, The Lady with the Hedgehog, both as framed prints, and on the left is what I considered the finished piece in oils, whilst on the right is the sketch in chalk and pastels, which others said that they would like to have. So I went ahead and made these available in both things. Now, as you see, as I also put them on products, here you can see on the bag, on the left, I decided to give the more finished piece a more detailed frame, while on the right, the more sketchy piece, I decided to make larger and a bit more graphic. And here you can see those differences on the journal, with the oil on the left and the chalk on the right. And then you can also see the difference in for example, a phone case. And then also finally the difference in, say, a pillow, where the left is more decorative while on the right is a bit more graphic. So I'm going to put a link to those things and how to purchase my art in my bio on the bottom, or you can simply go to the donnadavisart.com. So another warm morning of this odd week of weather. I was having my tea and watching the commuters of geese and gulls and ducks outside the window, when I knew, or somehow felt, it was going to be a particularly eggy day. So when I went out to get the eggs from the chickens, it was funny because the white egg from one of the three graces, my three hens I call the three graces, was enormous. And now normally she, which is a leghorn, normally lays an egg that is very similar to the size of the Orpingtons and the Americanas. But here you can see this white egg should be the same size as this green egg, and look how much larger it is. And just to make it seem more gargantuan, let's put the quail egg next to it. And but here you can see the white egg of the leghorn and the green egg of the Americana normally are the same size. But it was a particularly eggy day as well, because on the same day, in the post, I got a surprise. My new eggs arrived in the post that day, and I was quite excited. I've been going back and forth trying to decide which eggs to get, but this is a batch of bantam eggs. And I was pretty impressed with the person who shipped them because they were really wrapped really well, so I would recommend them if anyone ever asked. But here you can see the collection of eggs, and isn't this a funny odd-shaped one? So these are bantam eggs, and I also got in my new incubator, which I'm really excited about. So it's just a tiny little inexpensive one, but I'm excited because it has an area to keep water in. It has a fan as well as an automatic turner. So we'll see how it works out. And when you put eggs in, you always put the big side up, which is where the air sac is. Each spring I usually order in eggs to hatch, as I like to get chicks, usually locally, for my egg chickens, but then sometimes I like to hatch things such as these bantams as just decorative or fun pet chickens. Now, of course, they'll still give us eggs, but I'm finally decided on the two breeds. So I'm going to be doing a Polish bantam cuckoo, which is the black and white you see on the left with a big tuft hat. They look like Edwardian ladies in their hats. And then the other is a silky, which is, I'm getting a buff silky, which is a sort of a peachy apricot color, because this year I'm going to be doing a peachy apricot garden of flowers, and I really thought that I may make a little house for these to dwell in that area. So these are the bantam chicks I will be hatching this year. And now I'm also going to be hatching some other eggs that are going to be more for egg production chickens. And those will be coming in later, and I will share those with you when I get those in. And those are going to be blue, so those will be exciting. And to bring some much needed spring into this week, I thought we could use the lovely planter we got, and then some flowers, and make a nice spring planter. So let's get started. As you recall, we got this lovely blue and white planter at Yarmouth Antiques. So I just wanted to plant it up with something spring-like. And what gave me the idea is these two beautiful primrose, well, they're sort of beautiful, they're kind of going. We had, in early February, we had a freak week of very warm weather, and just little tufts of some of my primrose were coming up. So I dug up two of them, stuck them in a pot, and I brought them in the house, and I've been sort of watching them grow, and they started to flower, and I thought, oh, I need to do something with these. So I was going to do bulbs to grow in here, but I thought, well, I've already started the primrose inside. So I just hopped down to my garden center and got some lovely little daffs that are already blooming and a beautiful, beautiful purple hyacinth that's getting ready to bloom. So I thought, with something taken from the yard and encouraged to grow a little bit sooner, of course they can go back out into the yard. I always try to add a few primrose every year anyway, so I'll probably get more once they come into the garden center. It's been so cold that our garden centers are just starting to get those things in now. So this pot does not have a drain hole, and I don't normally like to plant things in containers without drain holes. However, with things like Christmas planters or bulbs that aren't going to be in there very long, I don't mind, and I would never try to put a hole in this pretty pot. It isn't really special or anything, it's probably even modern, but it looks so pretty that I probably will plant it up with houseplants at some point, and I'll deal with the drainage issue then. Maybe I'll do a video about that. But for now, since these are only going to be in here for a few weeks, maybe a month, I'm just going to take basic gravel from our yard, or you could use rocks, I suppose. But just that way it adds a little bit of drainage, and then I can pour in the soil. Normally I would use regular potting soil, but I kind of like to use seed starting soil. Regular potting soil is fine, but I find seed starting soil is a little bit more friable, a little bit more forgiving, so the drainage is a bit better, especially when you have stones in the bottom. So let's start with our centerpiece, these beautiful daffs. And of course these will go out into the yard after they bloom, because what's nice about buying sprouted daffs for your garden to enjoy in the spring is when you're done you can pop them out. And daffs and alliums are about the only plants I can really grow out here as bulbs, because the deer and the rabbits eat tulips like nobody's business. So, and since this is such a pretty delicate little hyacinth here, let's take this out. Wow, look at that. Poor thing has been searching for soil. Well, it'll get something here anyway. Loosen that up. And now I'm centering this. I'm going to actually set it off to the center. Again, hard to do when I'm not standing in front of it, but I wanted this to be center, this to be just a tiny bit off center, and then I'm going to balance it with, I couldn't even recall what color these primrose were, because when I dug them they were just little bits of green, but we have a purple. Actually, I'm going to point this one this way where you can see the flower a bit better. And what's nice about this little handle is you can kind of manipulate the leaves a bit. It has a very wishing well kind of look. And then we'll take this yellow one like this. Now this is hardly anything amazing I'm doing here. I'm just sticking some bulbs and early spring plants in a planter, but sometimes a simple thing like this, even if it's cold, which it happens to be quite cold outside today, it's just enough to make you think and get joyful about spring. Isn't that pretty? And then, of course, as I say, I collect moss in our gardens in the wood and keep it growing occasionally, but this preserved moss, particularly this brand, reindeer moss, it's preserved and it's so nice, and it has such a lovely scent, and it stays green, and it looks very much like the real moss I collect in our wood when I go. My pockets are always full of stones and moss. And look, it even has little bits of, as if I collected it, little bits of twigs and such in there. There we go. Now that was quite simple. It's not even, now this might look odd here, but I think with this sprouting up over the back of this little handle, and then purple and yellow, and I just lucked out that this primrose happened to be purple. As this purple sprouts out, how lovely the purples and yellows with the blues and whites. A very classic, almost Dutch looking image. So this is this week's planting. I was going to do some more unboxing. I bought more of those seed starting systems and do more seeds, and I did start some, but I think we'll do more seed starting in next week's vlog. So but for this week I wanted to have some plant, and based on the primrose I snuck from the garden in early February on our faux spring day, I was inspired to head down to the garden center and get some early bulbs, and now I'll have these can go back in the garden, and now I'll have more lovely bulbs to go in the garden. And I'll probably actually put these in the wood. I like to put these tiny little ones in the wood because they look so much more natural, and I think they naturalize quite easily. And there you go, this week's planting or gardening fun. Some hopeful spring daffs and hyacinths and primrose in our fun found Yarmouth Antique Centre pot. A great way to look forward to spring. And I can hardly close without sharing a little bit of Una. And this is the one chick which is the most friendliest to me. But Una is still not really that interested in her. But I do take her out and let her play with Una. But for the most part, she tends to keep to herself and waits to go back with her friends, while Una mostly wants to come up to me. I think Una may be more of a single pet bird. But we'll see if this new little chick wants to be Una's friend. So, thank you for joining me today on this week's vlog. I think we had some fun. We went on an antique outing, we did some artwork, played with quail, even set some hopeful new friends in the incubator. So I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you who would like to, I do have a Patreon page. So I suppose I should give my plug, as YouTubers are meant to do. But if you did want to check out my Patreon page, we have the patrons and I have a little spot called the Virtual Village, where we meet whenever we choose, much as we do on premieres, but we can just stop by when we like and say hello, and leave videos and such for each other. But it's not a requirement, of course, and I'm happy to have you here on YouTube and for you to give up even just a moment of your time to spend here with me at Bunny Hall. I'm quite thankful. So until we meet again in the chats and in the comments and on the next vlog, remember, stay creative.